everyone, and welcome to our training today. Today we're talking about SBA loans during the coronavirus. We're actually going to be talking about exactly what is available now with SBA. As many of you know, SBA system just had about $50 billion injected into it to help all of us entrepreneurs with obtaining financing through the coronavirus crisis. So I'm going to talk more about that. By the end of this, you're going to know everything you need to know to tap into the $50 billion. You're going to know what it takes to qualify. You're going to know how to get the money. You're going to know the rates, the terms, the payments that you're able to get, everything involved, so you'll be able to know if this is the right product for you. And I'll talk about a lot of other alternatives if for any reason you can't qualify for this $50 billion. We'll talk about a lot of other money that's becoming available and other money that's coming available daily, state by state, for all of us. Those that don't know me, my name is Ty Crandall. I'm CEO at Credit Suite, and this is what we help business owners do, is obtain capital. So we have extra team members right now finding all the funding available in each state for you, digging more into all these new programs that are coming out, and we will be doing more and more and more live streams to keep you informed of what's changing and how to access this capital. If we can help you along the way, if any of this makes sense, if you want to apply for an SBA loan, then I went ahead and put a link at the bottom, creditsuite.com/get funding. We work with a ton of different SBA lenders. Some work better with different industries, etc., so we can help you find the right home. Also, you can give us a ring at 877-600-2487, but a little late starting today because I was trying to put this phone number on our slides, but I'm not a graphics person, so I didn't do the best job of that. So let's talk a little bit about this. So obviously our world is changing right now. Okay, a lot of things are happening. A lot of people are still unsure of what to do and wondering, kind of what's going to change, or even are you really able to survive during this time? So if you're kind of in this boat where you have all of this uncertainty, then I want you to know that this is absolutely normal. Okay, a lot of people are dealing with exactly the same kind of uncertainty right now. Okay, so if that is you, then please understand that a lot of people are dealing with exactly the same thing at this moment in time. Okay, so that being said, conditions are changing on the fly. Okay, 5 states have already closed restaurants and bars, and by the time I'm actually doing this was as of yesterday, this may have even changed. Okay, in Florida, as of yesterday, for example, nightclubs are shut down for 30 days. Nightclubs. Okay, so we have nightclubs and a couple other late night kind of type of facilities are actually shut down, where they're not even able to come in and operate at all for the next 30 days. So we're already starting to see a lot of these changes. Others are limiting gatherings. We're starting to see a lot where, even 10 people gathering in one place is now going to be restricted. You're not able to do these kind of things. So any of these kind of businesses, if you're in a business that's affected by this, so for example, one of my friends owns a med spa, and we went to her facility the other day and it was empty. People were too scared to even walk into her door. So this is happening in a lot of places. A lot of businesses are obviously being affected, okay, even more as this continues to grow. So there's great news though. Right? Interest rates, if you've heard, the Fed has cut the interest rate to zero, or their rate to 0%. So what this means is you're going to find out, when we talk about SBA loans rate, SBA loan rates, is that it's more affordable now to be able to tap into this kind of financing than ever before. So that's definitely a very good positive for all of us. Okay, there's never been a better time to borrow, but you need to know that there is a limited window here. Okay, you can still get money within 24 hours. You can still get money from alternative lenders. You can still get money from the big banks. Okay, so it's a great time, but I need to explain what's happening. At the same time, the system is becoming overwhelmed. So for example, I just heard from some of our broker and lender partners that lenders aren't even accepting broker applications unless you're what we call a super broker. So like Credit Suite is known as a super broker because we do a lot of volume. But a normal broker that does a deal here and there, a lot of the lenders aren't even accepting applications from them because the system itself is overwhelmed. So I'm going to say this throughout today. There is a window to be able to tap in and get this money, but it is a limited window. What's happening is the system will quickly start to become overwhelmed, and that will mean it's very difficult to get the money, or very difficult to get the money in a timely fashion. So these are things that we have to look out for. Now, the Fed just released 2 types of lending programs to help. And by I mean just released, I mean by the time I'm filming this today here on March 18th, this was yesterday that this took place. And I'm going to explain to you what it means, but I'm going to give you some kind of overview as well. Okay, they'll buy what they call commercial paper. which is short-term promissory notes, since buyers are now disappearing, which is doubling rates. So what's happening is the way that money is bought and sold, a lot of places originate loans and then that money is sold on the secondary market. Now that's just a really loose look at how kind of some of the system works. But what's happening is a lot of the buyers aren't buying that paper. So what happened was the Fed just released a program to come in and buy this paper, because what was happening is the rates that people were getting were double on the money, meaning there were fewer people buying these loans, and so the ones that were buying loans were doubling the rate. So it was jacking rates up, which is the exact opposite of what we're trying to accomplish right now. So what happens is with this move, it helps reduce the possibility of a cash crunch that would prevent companies from getting the money they need. So basically the Fed is stepping in, and what they're doing is buying a lot of this paper, so then the banks and the credit issuers have more money to continue to lend to you. So the Treasury Secretary said the central bank would be able to buy about $1 trillion worth of this paper as needed. So again, the government is setting it up to be able to buy this, to be able to make sure that other lenders and credit issuers have the ability to lend you money. Now they're also rolling out a new primary dealers credit facility, which allows banks to give short-term loans they need to buy and hold securities, including corporate bonds. So a quote here on this is, the facility will allow primary dealers to support smooth market functioning and facilitate the availability of credit to businesses and households. Okay, the Fed says about the program. Now they also sweeten the terms of its discount window, which allows banks to tap short-term loans from the Fed. Okay, so for example, what this means is it means that in comparison, if this was done all of last year, the balance sheet of the 6 biggest banks would be $2.8 trillion larger. Okay, so what all this means is this. The bottom line is the federal government stepping in and making it easier for lenders and credit issuers to lend money. That's what all this means. And I wanted to give you some of the official terms of what all these things are being said, but that's what it comes down to, is the Fed is creating new programs to basically open up and provide liquidity in the markets so credit issuers and lenders can continue to lend us money. Because we quickly started to see that lenders started to tighten up. They started to stop getting more applications. It became, the window was very short to get in and get your money before things started to close up. Well, the government's now come in and dumped a lot of money in. You're talking about trillions of dollars here being thrown around. So in doing so, it's making it easier for us to tap into the capital that we need. So I want to give you some great news, right? A lot of you are watching this thinking it's bad news with the coronavirus, but the government's doing a very good job so far from what I'm seeing of stepping in and trying to provide liquidity to us through multiple different programs, including the SBA that we're talking about now. Now, SBA loans, obviously fantastic option right now. So they just poured $50 billion in to the government for relief. To give you an idea, this doubles the amount of funding that the SBA system has. It doubles the amount of money that SBA can now lend. And we're going to talk about SBA's role in the lending process. Okay, the SBA is waiving upfront fees for applicants and the bank. So they're not charging fees to you, they're not charging fees to the bank. So that makes it easier on you and the bank to actually be able to come in and be able to get the money that you need. Okay, now SBA is now permitted to exercise available authority. They will provide loans to businesses affected by the coronavirus to help overcome disruptions. This is called disaster relief. Now there's two things you need to know about disaster relief. It's very important for you as an entrepreneur. One, we're going to see it on a federal level here, as we've seen, where they're pouring the money into SBA, relying on SBA to distribute those funds. We're going to talk about how to get those funds today. The second is you need to know on a local level. There are cities, there are counties, especially states, that are providing this kind of relief on a statewide basis. So let me give you an example. 2 days ago, Florida, actually yesterday I believe, Florida just opened up a $50,000 interest-free loan for business owners that are affected by the coronavirus in the state of Florida. Okay, so a lot of these states are rolling this out, and what we're going to do is we're going to be working to gather all the information about every state and program that they're rolling out, and I will come back and do a webinar on that. We're even going to have a blog post that will be updated in real time as more states offer more funding. So just keep tuned, okay, because soon, if you're not on our email list, you can go to creditsuite.com/EIN. creditsuite.com/EIN. Get a great free guide on building business credit, and then we will notify people on our list when this blog post becomes available that in real time we will keep updated of every single state and the disaster relief funding that's available for entrepreneurs in that state. We're in the process of researching and building that right now. So you want to keep track of both. What's happening on the federal level, the SBA loans, okay? And the second, you need to pay attention to your state because there's going to be opportunities that are going to present themselves statewide as well. Now, the president's calling on Congress to increase funding for this program as well. And the intent's to make 30 million small businesses more resilient to coronavirus-related economic disruption. They're trying to help us all. That's how many businesses the Fed actually says right now are in the United States. It's about 30 million. So what they're trying to do is provide a way for all of us to get relief. Again, we're seeing it on a state, we're seeing it on a federal level. So now when we talk about these SBA loans, now I'm going to give you two different sets of numbers today. I'm going to give you normal SBA numbers, what you can typically get from the SBA system, which you absolutely can get right now. We're in the process of applying for an SBA loan. We had another SBA loan. We've already started the process before the coronavirus had come. Okay, and they said, don't remove your application. Don't apply anywhere else. You'll start over. Stay in line where you are right now. So there's the normal SBA funding, and then there's this disaster relief funding that's just released. The terms are a little bit different between the two. So I'm going to give you terms on both. So I don't want it to be confusing because you're going to see some terms today and say, well, wait a second. 5 slides ago you said something different. It's because there's a difference between the disaster relief funding and the non. The disaster relief funding loans are available to $2 million, okay, for those that are hit economically. Loans can be used to pay debts that can't be paid because of the outbreak's impact, payroll, accounting payable, other bills. Why I'm telling you this is because when you apply for an SBA loan, you have to dictate what the purpose of the money is. Now, there's a lot of funding. So, for example, we offer a fantastic credit line that people are grabbing right now, where you can get $150,000 in financing, 0% interest rate, no doc, no bank statements, no tax returns, strictly based on personal credit with a 650 FICO score. Okay, so if that makes sense to you, I put our phone number at the bottom of the slides, 877-600-2487. You can go directly to our approval link, creditsuite.com/get funding. Either way, we can help you get approved for $150,000 in credit lines, 0% rate. If you have a 650 credit score, have a guarantor that does. That kind of financing doesn't have to have a purpose. You don't have to tell the financial sources where you're spending the money. You could just get 150,000 credit lines and just have them available if you need them. But with SBA, you have to tell them what you're using the funds for. So what they're basically saying is that you can now use these funds for all kinds of things that normally you couldn't get SBA loans for just because you're impacted by the coronavirus. So for example, it wouldn't fly to go to SBA at a normal loan and say, I'm trying to get a loan just to pay my payroll. SBA would be like, no thank you. We're not going to lend you money based on that purpose because you're about ready to go out of business. But when it comes to disaster loans, they expect that you're getting the money for things like paying your bills and payroll. So they're opening up the amount of reasons that you can actually get this kind of working capital to use for your business. Basically, it's easier to get. Rates are as low as 3.75. So these disaster relief loans are at 3.75% for for-profit companies. They are at 2.75% for nonprofit companies. You know if you're a for-profit or a nonprofit. Loan terms are available at 10 years, 20 years, or 30 years. Very important. Here's why. When it comes to getting financing for your business, you need to know that your term, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 1 year, 3 years, weighs in much more to your payment than the interest rate. Okay, I would rather have a longer term and a higher interest rate all day long because that would still give me a lower payment. So when it comes to getting money for your business right now, you need to really pay attention to any options you have that give you the longest financing terms. And in this case, you're able to get about $30,000. Okay, and Joy says, please, I need help, a new business startup. Joy, we'll talk about some options, but the credit line option I just gave you works great for startups, and so does business credit. Rolanda's chiming in, says, I was declined last week for tornado SBA disaster loan. good credit, but debt to ratio too high. Give us a call, Rolanda. Let us see what we can do to help you. 877-600-2487. Gloria says, should a partner use that phone number for the $150,000 credit line? If you're a partner with us now, you can tap in to your partner success number. You could call them, you can call your finance officer, or you could call our main sales team, our main number. Whatever will work. Any of those options can work for you. And Shirt Tech says, can we use it to buy new trucks for my transportation company? Yes, there is. And if you want to know about more funding for transportation companies, look at facebook.com/credit suite. We just did a live stream on specific funding that works for trucking companies probably last week or the week before. So that option can work for you as well. Back to where we were talking about. Loan terms up to 30 years. Here's an example. If you got this loan on a 30-year loan at 3.75% as a for-profit company and got $350,000, your payment would be $1,600 a month roughly. Now here's why I tell you specifically $350,000. As you're about to find out, okay, $350,000 and less is where you want to be. It's the sweet spot. It's where you're going to get the best chance of getting money fast. If you get above $350,000, things get a little tricky, as we're going to see. So yes, you can get these loans up to $2 million, but they get tricky when we're above $350,000, and we're going to talk about that in a few minutes. So markets are tightening up. There's limited window to access the money. Lenders are already asking and looking at weekly financial statements instead of monthly. It's because once revenue starts to fall, it becomes really tough to get money. I've been saying this. I will scream and scream and scream about this for weeks to come. I've been through the 2008 recession. I wasn't in financial services. I was in mortgages. Worst place to be. Okay, I waited too long to get money, and when I went to go apply, the window was closed. My ability to get money was closed, and I lost the business as a result. Going through an economic disaster before, I can tell you the number one thing you need to do is get money and get it immediately. You need to start applying for the money. You need to access credit lines. You need to get it right away because markets will tighten up. So for example, people think that 0% rates are really good. But the problem is that banks can't make as much money when rates are at 0%. They want to make more money. Okay, so even them, they tend to tighten up a little in time because they're trying to hold on to more money to make it at a higher rate. It's unfortunate, but it happens. So I can go on and on for an hour and tell you all the reasons that markets tighten up. But they will tighten up. It will become more difficult to get money. As tens of thousands of businesses are applying for this kind of financing, it will take longer to get the money as well. And once your revenue stops or starts declining, then there's all kinds of other financing options which can work for you right now today, but that won't be able to work for you once that happens. So for example, one of the biggest, most popular kind of financing right now for entrepreneurs is called cash flow financing. It's also called a revenue factoring, revenue financing, merchant cash advances. This kind of money just looks at the revenue in your bank account, and they make sure that if it's consistent, that you could borrow money based just on that and get $500,000 advanced to you within 48 hours based just on having consistent revenue, okay? But the problem is once your revenue starts to decline, then all those options go away. Not all your options, but that kind of option goes away. So for example, in Florida, restaurants are still open for business. You can still go and have a restaurant here and your sales might not be declining. But if they come with the quarantine next week, then all of a sudden your sales go to absolute zero. Okay, and if that happens, then it becomes much harder to get a lot of this kind of financing. Disaster relief financing may still be there, but other kind of financing is not going to be. So it becomes very important that you act quickly before these revenues start to fall. So remember, SBA does not actually lend money. They determine loan guidelines and they guarantee these loans. So you need to keep this in mind. There's two things. People want to know, where do I go to get this money? Well, first of all, you can go to any major bank, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, Chase, etc. There are some brokers that specialize just in SBA as well. You could give us a ring, 877-600-2487, creditsuite.com/get funding. We work with a lot of different kind of SBA lenders because a trucker is going to go to a different lender than somebody that's an accountant. It's just the way that it is. Different lenders are better for you you than other SBA lenders. So if you're working with a source like us, we work with all of these different SBA lenders to find the right lender for you, or you can go directly to a bank and hope that you meet their criteria. But the reason this is important is that you've got two sets of guidelines you have to qualify for. You have to qualify for what SBA determines is a loan they will accept, and you also have to qualify for that bank's guidelines as well. So if you go into Bank of America and apply, then you have to meet their requirements, and you have to also meet SBA's requirements. There's two sets of requirements, and this is why it makes sense to work with a company like Credit Suite, where we have a work with a bunch of different kind of SBA lenders, because you might not meet Bank of America's requirements, but you might meet Chase's, and you might not meet Chase's, but you might meet some small regional bank standards in the middle of Iowa. And that's why you want to work with a source that works with all of these different SBA lenders, because you need that flexibility based on your industry, time in business, etc., etc., etc. Okay, so that being said, SBA doesn't lend money typically. They do have something called a 7M program, okay, and that is a micro. M stands for micro. They do offer micro loans up to $30,000, but so that is a possibility. If you want to get small loans, they average $10,000, and the high is $30,000. You can get those from SBA. They're called SBA 7M loans, but most of the money SBA offers, including what I'm going to show you now, a 7A, which is what these disaster reliefs are. These disaster relief loans are 7A loans. Those aren't lent by SBA. They're lent by banks, and they're guaranteed by SBA. So just know that, because there's two sets of guidelines you're going to have to meet. Now, this is the most popular type of SBA loan that's out there. You've got to demonstrate a need for funds. We talked about this, and a sound business purpose in mind. But you've got to keep in mind that now it's easier to say that you're using the funds to meet payroll and to meet basic expenses, because that's what this disaster funding is for. So disaster funding opens up your use of funds, whereas things you wouldn't have typically been able to get an SBA loan for, you can now, because it's a disaster relief type of financing. 7A, it just means working capital. It just means you can use the money for general purposes. SBA's second most popular program is called an SBA 504, and that is for real estate. And why that's important is that right now a buddy of mine owns multiple martial arts studios, okay? He's getting an SBA 504 loan. We're doing that for him to refinance his building to lower his payment. So SBA 504 loans can be used to refinance your existing commercial real estate, and it can also be used to buy your existing real estate. Sometimes we're seeing that people are able to go and buy the piece of property that they're leasing or renting and lowering their overall payments. So if you're in a building and you need to be in a building to operate, know that those options are available as well. SBA 504, you could refinance the commercial real estate you have and save money, or you might even be able to buy the commercial real estate you're renting and save money there too. So a couple different things to keep in mind, or more ways you can actually save money there. Okay, 7A, interest. Let's talk about it. The current maximum interest rate ranges from 7.5% to 10%. Typically on SBA loans, I see interest rates of about 6 to 8%. Remember, these disaster loans are only 3.75% for profit. So it's almost half of what normal SBA interest rates are. Okay, it's determined on loan size and many other kind of risk, including credit, etc., etc. So with normal SBA loans, you can get loans up to $5 million. The max interest rate's 9.75%. The loan term is 10 to 30 years. Okay, the percentage guaranteed by SBA is 75 to 85%. Okay, and the SBA guarantee fee is 0 to 3.75%. Okay, so this is the fee that you're getting waived now. This is where this becomes so important. So we look at a $350,000 loan, for example, at $375,000, that could save you $7,000 in potential fee. So that could save you $7,000. And will also qualify you for all financing that you can get now. All that happens on the phone call with our team. Okay, and again, you get a free Experian and D&B report to see what's on there. If you continue to pay for the report after that, it's only $24. Okay, we have the cheapest business credit monitoring anywhere in the country, and we do that through our NAV integration. So if you have any questions, if we can help you get capital, give us a ring, 877-600-2487. Visit us online, creditsuite.com. Make sure you visit our channels on the social side.